Answer?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mattia Bagnoli, ANSA. Mr. Secretary General, we have been hearing lately worrying signals both from Russia and Ukraine on possible provocation at Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Would a Chernobyl-type accident with radioactive clouds impacting NATO country be considered a possible trigger for Article 5? Has that message been sent to Moscow?
I think that, first of all, I think it is important to understand that wars are by nature dangerous and also unpredictable. And of course, we are monitoring and following very closely the situation also around Zaporizhzhia, and we welcome and the nuclear power plant there. We also strongly welcome the fact that the International Atomic Energy Agency is monitoring closely. They have their experts following the situation. This is important because the Zaporizhzhia power plant is Europe's largest nuclear power plant. The International Atomic Energy Agency have a responsibility, they have a mandate, we support that when it comes to ensure that regulations and safety standards are fully upheld. That is, of course, a big challenge in a war zone, and therefore Russia has a particular responsibility. The best and the message from NATO and from the IAEA is that Russia should not launch any attacks from the power plant. They should not, of course, attack the power plant, and they should withdraw their forces. That will enable the experts to do their work in a better way. They have had access and have made some judgments and some assessments. They have said that they have seen no visible indication of mines or explosives at this stage, but have also asked for additional access to verify the safety of the plant. So we continue to call on Russia to withdraw from the facility and ensure the Ukrainian and international experts have full access. We continue to monitor, the International Atomic Energy Agency continue to monitor, and we call on Russia to withdraw its forces.
Ukrainian News Agency.
Dmitry Shkurko, National News Agency of Ukraine, thank you for the floor. I just want to adjust, will security guarantees for a future in agenda of in Vilnius Summit? And if I may, about the future membership, both Ukraine and NATO members agreed that issue of membership could be considered after the war is over. Would not it be an incentive for Russia to continue this war endlessly? And don't you think that the best guarantee, security guarantee for Ukraine is to ensure the NATO membership? Thank you.
Well, the most important thing now is to ensure that Ukraine prevails and that President Putin and Russia do not win this war. And therefore the most urgent task is the military support to Ukraine. Also knowing that the more land Ukraine is able to liberate, the stronger their hand will eventually be at the negotiating table to find a peaceful, enduring and just end to this war. When the war ends, then it is important, of course, that we have the frameworks in place to ensure that Russia, President Putin, not only rests its forces, retrain them, reallocate them, rearm them, and then re-attack at a later stage. That is actually a lasting and enduring peace. And to ensure that, we need frameworks in place to provide Ukraine with what they need to ensure that Russia is not going to attack again. And that's exactly what allies are discussing, partly as part of the discussion on the membership issue within NATO. And as I said, I'm confident that we'll find a united way forward as NATO allies on Ukraine's request for membership. We will also, I expect, make some concrete decisions on interoperability and other things that will help Ukraine to move closer to NATO. Then it is also publicly known, and that has been announced by several allies, that there are bilateral and actually also some multilateral consultations with Ukraine on different types of security arrangements. And I welcome also those efforts. We have been briefed about them, and it will just complement and underpin the efforts of NATO as an alliance. The message is, of course, that we take our decisions as sovereign independent nations together with Ukraine. So it's not for Russia to make any decisions, to have any veto. And again, we help Ukraine to win this war by providing military support, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, Reuters.
Andrew Gray from Reuters. Secretary General, could you tell us some more about the NATO-Ukraine Council and perhaps put it in concrete terms for an ordinary citizen who doesn't follow this stuff super closely? In particular, what kind of powers might it have? Would Ukraine be able to convene a meeting if it wants to do that? And could it be a forum for sharing intelligence, for example?
The NATO-Ukraine Council will be a council which is then formed by the 31 NATO allies, hopefully soon 32 allies with Sweden, but now 31 NATO allies, and Ukraine. And we will be together in the council as equals, and we will agree what we call modalities on how and how often this council will meet. But I expect that we will agree modalities that also then ensures that individual members of the council, and that includes also, of course, Ukraine, can call a meeting to have what we call crisis consultations. That is if they feel threatened in any way, and or they see any need for urgent consultations, then they can invoke this crisis consultation mechanism between the NATO allies and Ukraine as members of the council. Then the council can also make decisions, and it's fundamentally for the council to decide what decisions they can make. But this opens up for more practical joint activities. It opens also up for establishing subcommittees to address specific tasks, issues, be it cyber or be it, I don't know, interoperability, or that's up for to the council to decide. And for instance, agree a work program. So the whole idea is that by establishing it, we establish a body where we actually do things together, decide things together, consult together on issues that matter for our security. And that brings, again, Ukraine closer to NATO, and it provides Ukraine and all of us with a tool that we can use to do more together and strengthen the cooperation and the ties between Ukraine and all the NATO allies. So this will bring Ukraine closer to NATO. It will be good for Ukraine and good for NATO, and the inaugural meeting will be next week in Vilnius.
Deutsche Welle.
Sandra von Nahm, Deutsche Welle. Just a follow-up on the cluster bombs. Germany has already said that they are opposing sending cluster bombs to Ukraine. We understand that they could help Ukraine advance with their offensive. But if the US indeed decides to send them, is there not a risk that we could see first cracks in NATO's unity with regard to that topic? Thank you.
Well, it is for individual allies to make decisions on what type of weapons. All allies agree that we should deliver weapons, ammunition to Ukraine, and allies are delivering an unprecedented level of military support to Ukraine. And of course, Germany and many other allies are delivering different types of ammunition, weapons to Ukraine. But when it comes to cluster ammunition, there is a difference between allies, because some allies have signed the convention on cluster munitions, and they don't have cluster munitions. So, of course, there is no cluster munitions to provide to Ukraine. Other allies have not signed the convention, and many of them, or at least some of them, have cluster munitions. So it is for these individual allies then to make those decisions. NATO as an alliance doesn't have a position on the convention, simply because there are different views among allies on the convention, and then also of any possession of cluster munitions. Cluster munitions are already used in the war in Ukraine by both sides. The difference is that Russia is using cluster munition to attack, to invade Ukraine. Ukraine is using cluster munition to protect itself against an aggressor. And all allies, regardless of whether they have signed the Convention on Cluster Munition, agree that we should provide military support to Ukraine, as we do, also Germany. But exactly what type of weapons, what type of munition varies between allies, and will continue to vary between allies.
Okay, I think we have one last question from Georgian TV. Over there, just above you.
Georgian TV, Rustavitu Tamara and Subidze. Can we expect some kind of messages in Vilnius regarding aspirant countries for Georgia, for example? Thank you.
Well, our message has been for a long time, and was reiterated at the previous summit, that we need to strengthen our partnership with partners that are vulnerable for Russian interference and pressure. At the summit, allies will reiterate our support to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Georgia within its internationally recognized borders. Allies will also, I expect, reaffirm Georgia's right to decide its own future and foreign policy, free from outside intervention. Therefore, we call on Russia to withdraw its forces it has in Georgia, without any consent from the Georgian government, and to end its recognition and militarization of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. And I think also we have to recognize once again the importance that Georgia plays in also strengthening the partnership between NATO and Georgia, and the commitment to Euro-Atlantic security. So, we will address also other partners than Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine will be at the top of the agenda because there's a full-fledged war taking place in Ukraine. But we will also address the importance of strengthening our partnership with a country like Georgia.
Thank you very much.
Sorry?
On the Council? Yeah. Okay, Irina, one last follow-up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. Just follow up on the NATO-Ukraine Council. In the past, Hungarian constantly were blocking NATO-Ukraine Commission. Do you think that Hungarian again or other ally will have a right to block such meetings? And do you think it's really fair upgrade for Ukrainians to have a council while NATO-Russia Council still exists?
So first of all, the fact that we establish the NATO-Ukraine Council demonstrates that all allies, also Ukraine, also Hungary is in favor of that, because that's the way we make decisions. Second, we have the modalities that will ensure that we can convene the meeting. And we will, of course, continue to, when we start to have meetings in the NATO-Ukraine Council, I'm absolutely confident we'll continue to have meetings also in the future.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press conference.